Hi, I'm Charles, and today we're going to dive a little bit deeper on how to avoid the empty room problem when you're building a social application. Now, empty room isn't really an issue that's specific to Facebook applications, but it is something that every social application faces because it's the very first stage of how you get a user to engage with your content. If you might remember from our introductory video, there's a life cycle to how users interact with social applications. First, they start by trying to discover what's there. Then they will add content themselves, and then they'll finally invite their friends. But the first step is they have to find out what you have to offer them, and that's where we talk about the empty room problem. You see, it was a few years ago that the really traditional way that you'd build an application, even if it was a social one, is you'd start with a design kind of like this one, where basically you tell a person what to do, right? You focus on getting them to immediately contribute content. The first version of Twitter looked like this. The first version of Facebook looked like this. Previously, that was the standard way to do it. But today that doesn't really work, and nobody really builds this application, builds their starting screen this way if they're able to do something successful, because people just don't give you as much time as they used to. So what you want to do instead is start by giving them immediately content that tells them what they're going to find when they start to really engage with your application. So in this example, I'm kind of showing you what Pinterest could have done if it had started maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and what Pinterest actually does today. They immediately drop you in and they show you some content. In fact, they take that even just a little bit further by starting with a very short customization screen that they ask you to pick a few things you like, and then they customize the content to that. But they keep it very short and very quick, so when you're getting involved with this application, you immediately see what that value is. So that's how you solve the empty room problem. Now, the thing you might be asking is, well, if I start by just showing them content, how do I actually get this person to share? Well, that's a really important piece of how you actually design your social application, get them to the next stage. See, what you want to do is after they engage the content, you have an action very front and center. For example, in Pinterest, there's the photograph icon right in the middle. And then once that person is actually using the content, you give them a very explicit but relatively passive way to share content. So the way Pinterest does it is they actually show you these switches down here at the bottom, both in the settings, and then also every time you post something to Pinterest, where they'll tell you that they're going to share your content and that they're going to put it on Facebook, they're going to put it on their main feed, and they give you a way to control that. So it's very clear to the user when they're actually posting content that they're going to have that shared out. There's no surprise. They trust you, and now they've engaged with content and they understand how to share the content, and that's what creates that virtuous cycle that gets people to continue to engage. So when you're building an application, the key thing to keep in mind is you want to show them content immediately. Don't start with asking someone to contribute. Start by giving them something, but then ask them to get involved. Once you ask them to provide that value and you get them to provide that action, make sure you're very, very clear with the sharing that you're going to do so that they trust you and they'll be encouraged to continue to share content with you in the future. And that's how you can build an application that'll reach 1 million users.